Welcome to Secret Agenda YouTube channel. As the war between Israel and Hamas intensifies in Gaza City, there has been a noticeable increase in attacks in the north. The humanitarian crisis in the area is deepening as the Israeli army clashes with Hamas targets stationed around the Al-Shifa hospital. Israel continues to establish humanitarian corridors to ensure the safety of the residents, while Hamas ruthlessly uses civilians in the settlement as human shields. As the situation in Gaza continues to heat up, fears of a wider escalation of the war are growing. Today's statements by the Israeli army proved once again that this fear is not without reason. The army says that the increased attacks by Hezbollah in the north have made it much more difficult to contain the conflict with the organization in a limited way, so that it does not escalate into war. Today's firing of anti-tank missiles at civilian vehicles and the wounding of 15 civilians, including employees of the Israel Electricity Authority, is seen by the army as a new escalation. Some 30 rockets were fired at towns in the north, from Kiryat Shmona to Kiryat Bialik. Last week, both the IDF and Hezbollah tried to contain the fighting on the border. In response to yesterday's drone strike in the north and the rocket fired at Moshav Margaliot in the Upper Galilee, the IDF retaliated by attacking Lebanon about 40 kilometers, the farthest point in the country to be attacked since the beginning of the conflict. In recent days, Israel has issued statements directed at the Lebanese government, warning that Lebanon would face serious repercussions from Hezbollah's escalation. IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari explained that without significant changes in the north that would remove Hezbollah from the border area, it would be difficult to encourage the return of northern residents who were evacuated or displaced. Hagari said that, "We will not allow a situation where residents in the north do not feel safe returning to their homes." Meanwhile, the army is taking advantage of the ongoing clashes with Hezbollah to target infrastructure near the border. Observation posts, outposts, and ammunition depots are attacked daily, and the IDF claims that this activity will change Hezbollah's readiness on the border. The situation in northeastern Israel is also becoming more complicated. In response to increased attacks on U.S. forces in Syria and Iraq, the U.S. has launched a new round of strikes against targets in Syria for the third time in recent weeks. U.S. military forces attacked a training facility near the town of Abu Kamal on the Euphrates River in eastern Syria, and a training facility in the eastern Syrian town of Mayadin, which the Pentagon described as a safe house used by militant groups. The Pentagon said the facilities were used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and other groups affiliated with Iran. The Pentagon says the IRGC and other groups have repeatedly attacked U.S. forces in recent weeks. Defense officials said that as of last day, there have been 48 separate attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria, resulting in a total of 56 minor injuries. The injuries included traumatic brain injuries, and all wounded soldiers have returned to duty, the officials said. An earlier attack in Iraq resulted in the death of a U.S. contractor who suffered a heart attack after being attacked by a militant group. Separately, a large Israeli military force conducted overnight operations in the Shati refugee camp outside Gaza City, eliminating Hamas members in several clashes. In one of these, soldiers from the Givati Brigade discovered a large number of civilians inside a building and provided an escape route. During the evacuation, they came under Hamas fire. The IDF said they responded with gun and tank fire and eliminated the Hamas members. In another clash, Hamas members barricaded themselves inside a house. Hamas members were eliminated by fire and airstrikes. The IAF also targeted an arms depot after rockets were fired from the area. In a separate encounter, Nahal Brigade soldiers used a drone to target a team of 4 Hamas members. As a result of the drone strike, 3 of the Hamas members were killed and the 4th fled to a populated area. In the West Bank, the IDF, Shin Bet, and Border Police detained 15 terror suspects in an overnight operation, 6 of whom were linked to Hamas, the IDF announced the previous day. In a joint operation carried out by Israeli security forces together with the Israel Police Counterterrorism Unit, 34-year-old Montaser Mohammed Saif was eliminated in the Palestinian town of Burqa. Mohammed Saif is serving a 17-year prison sentence for involvement in terrorist activities. The Palestinian Authority Health Ministry in Ramallah said Saif died from wounds inflicted by Israeli bullets, but did not mention any previous or current terrorist activities he may have been involved in. Saif was reportedly shot while trying to escape while carrying a weapon. Other explosives found in Saif's vehicle and on his roof were also discovered and destroyed. In Burqa, 3 Hamas members were captured by Israeli forces. They belonged to a terror cell responsible for numerous attacks, including last month's incident in which an explosive wounded a soldier. 2 Carlo submachine guns were found in their possession during the operation. In Jenin, anti-Israeli militiamen opened fire on Israeli security forces, who returned fire, killing 1 person. As Israeli security personnel were leaving, another suspect was arrested. The suspects were found in possession of 3 armed explosives. The IDF said that approximately 1,570 people have been arrested in the West Bank since October 7th, and 950 of the terror suspects are linked to Hamas. On the other hand, we have reported in our newsfeed that the humanitarian crisis has deepened with the intensification of the conflict in the Middle East. Aid to make the living conditions in the region a little more bearable continues. Around 150 aid trucks entered the Gaza Strip from Egypt through the Rafah border crossing late last day. This was the highest number in one day since aid trucks were allowed to enter on October 21st. According to Egyptian officials and Kogat, the Israeli military organization responsible for liaison with the Palestinians, the 143-truck convoy included 72 trucks of food, 11 of medical equipment, and 22 of water. However, none of the trucks were reportedly carrying fuel. The Jordanian army said in a statement the other day that it had flown urgently needed medical supplies to the Jordanian hospital in Gaza. The parachute drop was the second delivery to the hospital since the start of the war in Gaza. The facility is located in the northern part of Gaza, which has been the focus of Israeli airstrikes and ground operations. The Jordanian army said that the hospital continues to function despite the difficult conditions caused by the constant Israeli bombardment of the Gaza Strip. However, insufficient aid and the danger to life and limb in the area are accelerating the flight from Gaza. Activity at the border crossing from Gaza to life continues. The exit of foreigners and wounded Palestinians from the Gaza Strip through the Rafah border crossing with Egypt resumed the other day, after a 2-day suspension, due to concerns over medical evacuations, Egyptian officials said. Officials said that fewer than 50 people, including foreign passport holders, Egyptians, and 5 wounded Palestinians, entered Egypt before the crossing was suspended. According to shared statistics, more than 2,000 people have crossed the Rafah border since limited evacuations from Gaza to Egypt began on November 1st. The evacuations have been halted several times due to attacks. To summarize, tensions in the north continue to escalate as clashes between Israel and Hamas continue. The Israeli army continues its multi-front offensive operations, with Hamas and Hezbollah targets taking the brunt of the attacks. However, rising tensions in the region are exacerbating conditions in the settlements. We hope for an end to these difficult conditions as soon as possible. Thank you for watching.